All right. Awesome. Okay. Well, again, my name is Jennifer Bogner, and I'm the Children's Ministry Director here at The Well, and we're super excited to just kind of try to help you start this journey of homeschooling that probably only a few of us on here have ever been able to do. I will just really quickly let us have an overview of what the evening is going to look like, and then I will let the panelists kind of take over and share their experiences and the wisdom that they have to offer us for tonight. So we're just going to start by hearing from Bonnie, Lawanda, and Courtney. They'll share their experiences of what homeschooling looks like / has looked like in the past with us. And then we'll have a time of Q&A where I've got some questions that are some pretty commonly asked questions about homeschool, but also want to invite you all to ask whatever questions you have on your heart right now or mind about homeschool. So you can, if you open up the chat, and you can either just send those questions to me privately if you're not comfortable with everybody knowing what questions you had to ask, or you can just put them in the chat to everyone, and we will get to your questions at some point in the Q&A today. And then after we do the Q&A, our three panelists will share their main takeaway tips for homeschooling, this homeschool journey that we're all about to begin in the next month or so. Followed by, we've got some resources that we would love to share with you to help make the journey a little bit easier. So that's what the night will look like. And with that, that is really what I have for you right now. And now I would love to let our three panelists take over and just let them know a little bit about themselves, let us know a little bit about themselves and their journeys. And I suppose we can start with Lawanda.
Okay. I was not expecting to start with me. So I think we were talking about introducing myself. So my name is Lawanda, and I homeschool. I have 3 children. I homeschool 4. And I've been what I call officially homeschooling for 9 years. But I have, of course, been my children's teacher from birth, so that would be more like 14 years. They are ages 9, 11, and 13. One of them just had a birthday yesterday, so I had to get those ages right. And he turned 11, so yay for 11-year-olds. So I have the 4th child that I homeschool is my niece, and she is 3 years old, and so that looks like preschool, and that's what I call unofficial homeschooling. So in the beginning, my sons were when they were babies. So when I started homeschooling, it was with my daughter. When I started officially doing it, it was with my daughter, and my boys were very young. They were like 1 and 2 years old. And so we would begin our day with reading together. And then I would give the boys a project or a task, something like drawing or blocks or something that they could do independently for up to like 15 minutes. And then, and they were doing it together, so they'd always just talk to each other and stuff. And then I would explain the information for my daughter, and so I'd kind of teach her for 15 minutes and let her do independent work while I went to check on the boys and then come back. So it was a lot of back and forth. How are you doing? Okay, now how are you doing? And at that point, like, school took 2.5 hours. So we would go through an hour, take a break, and then I would send the boys outside so they could play. And then we go through another hour, kind of with them being outside with us, like focusing on work. And then we would wrap up our day by reading some more, eating lunch, and they go take a nap, which was fantastic. It was a great way to homeschool. But then, of course, they kept growing and they got older. So homeschool began to look much different since I began schooling more than 1 grade. So once my daughter was, once my youngest son was in 1st grade was when I decided to make this very beautiful and detailed master plan. I used all these pages and books, and so when I first started homeschooling, I did not have a curriculum, and I would say it was pretty easy for me to build my curriculum just because I had a background in teaching, and I had my mom was a teacher, so I've been exposed to teaching my whole life. Plus, I had my own teaching degree, and I'd worked in school, so I knew how to make a lesson plan. I knew how to draw out the curriculum. So I just looked up the TEKS, which are essential knowledge and skills, and they have those on Google. Anyone can look them up. They're open to the public, and you can look them up by grade level, by school district, whatever you want, by state, and it'll tell you what your child is supposed to know and when they should learn it in the school year. And so I just printed that off, and I taught her off of that. We go to the library, we get books, and we sit down and we do work, or I print things off of the internet, and we've used worksheets. So that's what our early days of homeschooling looked like. Then we switched over to Charlotte Mason when a friend of mine introduced me to a website called Ambleside Online. And I love the methodology of reading books and discussions and nature walks, and getting into Shakespeare at an early age, and having forming a well-trained mind to think for itself and process. And so that really suited me well. It really suited my daughter well. And so that's what we began to do. I will say, I was very type A in the beginning, which is why you see this huge, all the details planner. But type A did not work for our family. So around 4 years of homeschooling, I went ahead and moved. I changed the way that we were doing things, and we went to a 4-day-a-week schedule. So my daughter's schooling was taking longer. The boys were still doing 2.5 hours, but her schooling was taking up to 4 hours because now she was in 5th grade, and she had a lot more material to read. She was writing, she was learning Latin and editing and all kinds of stuff. So we went to a 4-day-a-week model, and that was actually a really big shift for us, but also it allowed me to take our planning down to this. So now this is much simpler. It's a lot easier to follow because I just give that to them at the beginning of the week, and you have all of your lessons there, and it's all planned out, and I can hand that to my daughter and say, here, you can just follow this, which she could just follow it. So that was great. And then her brothers are also in there, and I would really keep an eye on what they were doing, but I was still kind of tracking every single thing that they did at that point. It was just a lot less detail. And then as we progressed, we began doing longer days still, but we also began to do fine arts on Fridays, PE on Fridays. We take field trips on Fridays. And so Friday is our fun day. So we just have a really good, really fun, really awesome Friday, and then we go into Saturday. Now our homeschool schedule looks like this, and this is what it pretty much looks like for the year. It's just the schedule of what we do, and then I can just say, pick up where you left off yesterday instead of minute detail your life. I am no longer a type A homeschooling mom. I am definitely, they've mellowed me out a lot on my homeschool journey, thanks to God and my children. and I definitely now just say, hey, let's wake up. We have Bible study, we have praise and worship, we eat breakfast, and then daughter goes and does her independent schoolwork. She decides what she wants to focus on that day. Sons are over here. They normally do math first. They just like to. And they get assistance from me if they have questions. So I'm in the room with them, but I don't really do hands-on teaching anymore. They're really in control of their learning. So if they have a question or they can't explain something with their material, that's when I come in. So now I'm more of a facilitator of their learning and less of a teacher, a direct teacher for them. But they still have projects and works and all of the things that they need to get done. It's just more so up to them to get it done. Now, of course, if a week has gone by, I'm like, I need my stuff. Guys, you need to turn your work in. You have this due, you have an essay due, you have a project due, we have to film this. Let's get it done today. And then you have to just focus. But generally they have kind of an open schedule now. Then I have more time. That gives me more time to actually do play and activities with my niece. And of course, her schooling is done in like 30 to 45 minutes. It's not like a whole intense day, but she needs like activities and things to do. So it's that building that like independence in that I already built in my kids, building that in her, again, is really important to me because I need everyone to get to an independent, I can do things myself because I work. So I have several part-time jobs that I very much enjoy. And I also volunteer with the church, and I volunteer, in different, with my community. So with our co-ops and things like that, which means I get to be very busy. But that also means that I can't just hover over you all day. So you've got to have like some independence and some ability to get your work done on your own. And that was, again, established at the very beginning. Like, you have 15 minutes to play by yourself. You have 30 minutes to play by yourself. Now it's 45 minutes to play by yourself. I'm working with someone else. You have to do that. And so that's how I say our homeschool journey really has gone from beginning to end. And for anyone who wanted to do like so there's many different types of curriculums, but the one we use is definitely more of an open discussion type curriculum where you're really diving deep into your subject matter, into history, into geography. It's a lot of reading, so it does not work for everyone. My boys had a really hard time with that type of curriculum because they are both kinesthetic learners, and Leah is not. Like she learns like I do, so that was super easy. But they are both kinesthetic learners like my husband, and so figuring out like how to teach them things was actually Aaliyah that discovered it. She taught them how to read, and she did that by taking them outside and having them do jumping jacks and jump on the trampoline and handstands and stuff while they went over their letters and alphabet sounds and all of that. And then she would hold up cards while they were doing flips, which was so cute, but very effective for them. Once they learned how to read, then it was a lot easier for us to get into the reading curriculum. Right. That's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you. There's a lot to unpack there, and we will get to it. But thank you for sharing. Next, we'll have Courtney. If you could share a bit about your homeschooling journey.
Yeah, sure. Yes, so I am Courtney, and I am a visual learner. So the nerd that I am, I decided to make some slides to help keep me on track. That way I can see them. So I'm going to share my screen and see if this works. So let's see. Does everybody see these slides? Yes, are we good? Yeah, okay. So this is sort of my experience. So this will be, I have done this for a decade. We have 6 kids. And we are probably the least conventional homeschoolers that you will meet, because we homeschool one year and then put them back in public school the next year. And so I have done this for a decade, but not with all of my 6 children under my roof every year. I think the most was probably when, obviously this last year when all 6 were home. I think before that I probably had 5. So as I was trying to think of how to unpack my experience, it just felt like it would take forever. So I was trying to think of like big bucket ideas of things that I could pass on that sort of sum up my experience and what I've learned. And I will say, I feel like I am just starting to get the hang of it. So I feel like just this year. So it has taken me 10 years, and I finally feel like, I'm like, oh, I think I'm kind of getting it. So for all of you who are just starting, or just because of virtual have just been thrown into this, it is completely normal to feel overwhelmed. You can do this. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. I just feel like I'm finally getting it. So my first idea, let's see, how do I move this along? Does anybody, Jennifer, how do I like play the next? Oh, here we go. Okay. So my first bucket idea was my philosophy, or my sort of mode of homeschooling is I really do. I kind of see myself as a manager or an implementer. And so I am not one that's going to like write my own lesson plans. I love teaching in the sense of like, I love teaching the Word of God. So I'll teach a Thrive or a Bible study, but I am not one to like teach science or come up with my own lesson plan for language arts or how to dissect a sentence. Like I don't have training in that. And so I really rely heavily on curriculum. So I love like a good workbook. I love having to work through it with my kids, and I'm totally there to help unpack it for them, or if they need help explaining it. But I really do sort of love my workbook. So we have like our math curriculum workbook, my English, you know, stuff like that. So, and because of the makeup of our family, we actually have we have 3 kids that have some learning disabilities and special needs, some more severe than others. So part of that managing is I help with like OT. I have to sort of like reinforce what they learned at speech therapy. We have some kids with dyslexia, so we're working on flashcards and other things like that. So I'm not skilled enough to sort of know how to do all of that. So I sort of take them to these therapies, get them to these tutoring or Zooms events, and then have to like unpack it that week with them. So that I guess is the first sort of, I think about myself as a homeschooler. I'm definitely like an implementer. Give me what I need to do and I can do it. My second one is I need people. So I have always been a part of at least like one co-op. I am part of a co-op called Classical Conversations, and it meets every week on Tuesdays. And they cover most of the subjects, and then there's stuff to do at home, but I feel like it just gives me that accountability. But I feel like if I'm like, yeah, I'll just do that on my own, I probably won't. So I just need people around me to support me. I need a group. I feel like we usually are part of like an art class on the side also, or we do like to do field trips with people. We are all pretty much extroverts, and I just sort of need people. So when I think about my homeschooling experience, that's what that has looked like. And I will also say, like, I have hired tutors out. My mother-in-law Zooms and reads with my 6-year-old and is working on sight card, like flashcards with her. And so I like take all the help I can get. I'm like, yeah, you want to help me? That would be awesome. So yes, I need people. I can't do it alone. The other piece is I have learned I just have to write it down. So those of you who have been to my house, I have a huge whiteboard that kind of keeps the schedule of our week. It goes by day. And when I've been homeschooling, I kind of take the bottom half of the board and I just kind of write all the different subjects that we have to do every day. So it says math, reading, writing, piano, art, PE, science, like all of them listed on the left. And then I just make like grids every day. And so when the kids are done, they just check off that they did it. Because I felt like I was just walking around all the time being like, did you get your math done? Did you do your science? Have you read yet? And I just felt like I was hounding them, and it was like nagging them, and it was making me unhappy, and I think it was making them unhappy. And so I need to write everything down, and then they need to check it off. And so then when I see they've checked everything off, then I can go and say, hey, can you show me what you did in math? Or what did you read about? Or stuff like that. So that's really helped. And then, you know, when the kind of day is getting, and so I guess, yeah, the other piece is lunch is sort of our good like checkpoint. Like we sort of like, we start our day in our morning with devotionals and with Jesus, and then we eat breakfast as a family. So we kind of do like, we make a big deal in the morning, and then like kind of Wanda said, we sort of scatter out and everybody starts their work. And then lunch is kind of another good place to sort of regroup. And a lot of times you can get most of it done in just a couple hours. So I feel like lunch is a good time to sort of check back in and be like, hey, how much do you have left? The other thing I would say is I really sort of try to capitalize on that and do like some read alouds during lunchtime, like you know, whether it just be a fun book or a history or something like that. So, and writing it down, I would also say just like everything. You know, there's like emails from teachers and just all these random things that are coming in. I just try to write everything down. And I would say I'll say this later, but I feel like the phone is the biggest trap. I get so distracted on my phone, and then I think, oh, I need to order this from Amazon, and I need to put this on Instacart and whatever. So I try to like keep my phone away as much as I can. I make a lot of lists, and then when I have my time, I can go in and then, you know, order what I need to or do all that. So I make a lot of lists. I have lists everywhere. And then my last thing is we try to have fun. So I am a big person in fun. I like to have a lot of fun. So I do. I think we try to keep stuff short. We try to make games out of stuff. So if we're doing math flashcards, we might try to do like relay races. My kids, I have a few with ADHD, and so for them, they really kind of need incentives at the end of what they're doing. And so sometimes they can have a Skittle, or they can have a grape, or they can have 5 minutes of free time or whatever at the end of what they're doing. And that really helps. So games and keeping it fun really seem to help, at least in our household. So those are some things I feel like that stick out in my homeschooling experience. So that's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you. So really quickly before we get to Bonnie, just to kind of recap on a few of the different things that I'm hearing from both of you. One, that homeschool journey is very different for both of you. And then even it didn't start the same one way and then continue that way forever, but you have made changes as you saw fit to make changes. Yes. That you can do this if you have a teaching degree. You can do this if you don't have a teaching degree. You can do this if you're working part-time, if you've got multiple jobs, that there's still ways to do this if you're working. It's not going to take 7 hours a day for each of your children, but that you can do it in just a few hours each day, and not even necessarily Monday through Friday, but that it's very, very flexible is another theme that I think I've been hearing between the two of you so far. Yes, so with that, let's hear from Bonnie about her experiences, and then we'll go into a time of Q&A.
Hi, everybody. So mine is more like story. I've got a story for you. So everybody's reason for homeschooling is different. I have 3 children. Judah is 14, Asher is 12, and Tora is 9. Both of my boys went to public school until 2nd and 4th grade. My daughter only went for 2 months to kindergarten. And I have to be honest, I never would have predicted that I would be a homeschool mom. However, my husband's career path changed and we moved here from West Virginia. And so my position as a nurse turned into work from home, remote employment. And then with the move came my kids who really didn't see their dad a whole lot. Drastic emotions at the loss of close friends, and then a major culture change at the schools from West Virginia to here that impacted the curriculum for my children greatly. So I tried to help my kids adapt, but it became quite clear that Christ really led me to do more than just, hear and ignore and say everybody moves. So I reached out to 3 close friends who I knew that were homeschool moms and had really great families, and they were telling me that I was capable, even though I felt incapable, that I could be patient, even though I feel very impatient. And after much discussion and prayer, it became evident for me that I was being called to work from home and be a homeschool mom of all 3 of my children. And even though one might have had more of a need than another, I pulled all 3 of my kids out of public school. And also, unlike others, for me, that one decision was all the way till when they graduate from high school. It is already that in my mind. I'm a black and white person, all or nothing. So if any of you know me, I am very much a scheduler, and I like to be in control. And so our schedules had to match. And then I kind of had to have complete control of our lives, meaning I couldn't have like one kid in public school and a field trip and we want to go on vacation, and it didn't all match up. So I pulled them all out, and then based upon a friend's recommendation, I put together my own curriculum for that first year, and I really was just winging it. It was November, and my oldest, who had been the teacher's pet, was very angry with me, resented my decision, gave me attitude. My middle child thanked me, and my youngest just wanted to be with her mother. So emotions were high that first year. I had no idea what homeschool was supposed to look like. I lined up desks and made it basically a public school in my house. And then after some time, I realized that that is really not what homeschool looks like. So I got direction and guidance from a church who was my umbrella, and we'll talk about that in a little while, what that really means. And then in 2017, we joined the curriculum that Courtney spoke of, which is Classical Conversations. And we've been thriving ever since with that. So overall, we have homeschooled for 5 years, kindergarten basically through 8th grade. I had to teach my daughter how to read and everything, and now I'm going into dealing with high school stuff. Some subjects that we do, they can do all together because you basically learn at the grade level that you're at. You pull from it what you can, but then other subjects like math, you have to be very specific depending upon the age of the child. A typical day is not a typical day. Like, there's no such thing as a typical day in our home. I like to say that I start with Bible study every morning, but I can tell you that I've dropped the ball there. So what I've learned is I have to be very flexible. Like it was mentioned before, my children have gone from I'm very much leading to now I'm very much the facilitator. And everything is self-guided basically by the children. So I don't know if people really think about socialization. You really get to choose kind of who your kids are around. That's one of the things that was huge for me. When we had our kids in public school, there was a lot of issues that went on with one of our children, and what we decided to do is that we would then get to choose who our children are rubbing elbows with. And so as opposed to you having to learn all of these things that your children are doing in school and then adapting to that, you get to pick what your children are doing, and you've got the book, what they're learning, so you can kind of follow up. I know that in discussions that I've had in the past with like specifically Common Core math, I personally couldn't probably do that myself because I wasn't taught that way. And so when you get to choose the curriculum, you basically know the way your child is learning. And so therefore you can really be a facilitator for that type of an education. And it doesn't have to be a specific curriculum. It can be whatever you pick, and cost really, varies all over the place. So that's really our story. The way I call it now is it's not so much about the education. For us, it's more about the time and the bond, because I've got boys that are going into high school, and I really feel like for us, we've really gotten very close, and it's a blessing.
That's awesome, and leads right into my first question for all of you. So we'll start with you, Bonnie. That one of the joys of homeschooling for you has been that you're getting to bond with your kids in a way that might not necessarily be as easy or possible if they're not with you as often. So just what are some of your top joys as a homeschooling mom, and what are, let's just get real, what are some of the struggles that you are facing, even just in this past school year in general, you've noticed this is really hard for me?
So I think it changes from year to year, probably. But overall, we get control of their education. We get to focus on their aptitudes and basically where their needs are, we can listen and respond. We can include Bible lessons, and we don't have to worry about negative cultural influences, that I'm like specifically for us. My child, I have one that if someone was interrupting the teacher or just not really respecting the cultural norm of you raise your hand and he would get very frustrated with that. And so for us, I've been able to, at home, we don't have to deal with those types of things. And that's one of the things I think Courtney might agree with too, is when you have kids who have special needs like that, then that doesn't have to be an element within the education itself. Like in a public classroom setting, my child couldn't get past that to the education portion. And, it was really hard for him. And so that's really a pro, is that, when it's time to focus on schooling, that's really all you're focusing on. And it's almost like a tutor. I would say the cons would be giving your children the ability to function with all different cultures. I mean, that kind of has its own, when they do go out into society, how are they going to do? And so it doesn't give them that tough skin, maybe. And then there are definitely a lot of times where we've rubbed elbows. Like I said about my oldest son, where I have to be honest, I threw an eraser at him and he threw stuff back at me. I mean, we've had our arguments over things because I think we're a lot alike. And so, when you're just with your mom, you have to call in the principal, who is dad, and that's all you got. So there's the con.
Thank you so much for your honesty, because I know sometimes what I have seen about homeschooling, you don't necessarily get to see both sides. And sometimes, even for me, I see perfect moms who have the perfect kids with their perfect little in-home classrooms and whatnot, but maybe that's not what it looks like. So if it doesn't look like that with my 3-year-old, then maybe I'm still doing something right. So thank you for that. And next we'll hear from Courtney, if you could share your joys and struggles.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so here we go. Let me go back to this. Like I said, I had to keep myself going. All right, so I think I do this. Okay, so my joys and struggles. So I know I'm so nerdy, right? Okay, here we go. I'm just being honest. I had to organize it. Okay, so my joys. These are my joys. I think the joys of homeschooling, it is just, the flexibility is amazing. You can start your day at 6 a.m. if you want. If your 2-year-olds are up at the crack of dawn. I remember when Jake was really little, he would just wake up early. And so I would have his math. I mean, I was working out or still in bed. I mean, I'm not up, but I put his math on the counter with a granola bar, and he could do his little math page and then eat his granola bar, and he knew we'd have breakfast today. I mean, there's just so much flexibility, and the freedom and the creativity. I feel like now when I have teenagers, they don't necessarily want to start their day super early. So I can really pour into my little ones because their school doesn't take as long. And so I can try to fill their tank early and spend some time with them. We can do a puzzle, play a game, or work on some sight words or something, and then kind of focus on my other kids later. It's just, there's a lot of creativity and freedom. I mean, you can take vacations when you want to. You can, like Wanda said, you can have field trip days. You can go hiking. You can play outside. I don't know, just lots of that. And it's just a shorter day. It doesn't take as long. Yeah, I think the Christ-centered piece that's been talked about, you can really build in some of that in your home, whether it's Bible studies or podcasts you listen to or stuff like that. And then it's family-centered. So it really does. I do feel like this year during COVID, more than anything, we're probably all feeling this, is I didn't realize how much we just outsourced so much parenting, so much stuff. We were just being pulled from so many directions that really this season has really taught us, there is some real joy to being so family centered, right? Like I'm not outsourcing all of their PE to different sports. I'm not outsourcing all of their music to piano lessons and music lessons. And like, it's all, if we're going to do it, it's at home, you know? And so there's something really great to that, of trying to like help each other out. So my older ones have certain hours they have to help the younger ones, and, you know, they have to share chores, like all that stuff. So it's really family centered that way. Other joy that I put was, it has been a sanctifying journey for me. I feel like I like control, or I want things how I want it, or I feel like I have a schedule and I feel like it's going to go a certain way. And God has quickly been teaching me, and homeschooling will do it real fast. I'm sure those that we've all virtual schooled this last spring, that it doesn't always go like that. And so I think to have to rely on the Lord, to realize it's not in my own strength, that I'm going to need to depend on him. I have a couple favorite verses. John 15:5. I think this sums it up really well. It says, let's see. Oh, it says, "For apart from me, you can do nothing." And I just think that's really true, that when I try to homeschool my children apart from the Lord, it crashes and burns and fails, and we're screaming and it's not going well. And so, I think the fact that like scripture speaks to, I am there to shepherd them and train them and bring them up in the Lord, that I really get to know them and their strengths and their weaknesses, and they also get to see who I am. And so in that, we really get to grow and learn and love each other and figure out how to do that together. And so it's not pretty. I'm not saying it's pretty, but I think I don't get to like get distracted from that. I have to plug in and lean on the Lord, that I can't just sort of get lose sight of that, or I can't like be distracted from it. I'm like in the throes of it. So that's a joy, I think, that I get to really walk with the Lord. My struggles are these. I feel like my constant struggle is I have this insecurity or this fear that I'm always asking myself, am I doing enough, right? Is she on grade level? Are they learning the right things? And so I really have to battle that. And I think it goes with comparison a lot, that I look and see what Susie's doing, and I'm like, oh, she's doing it so much better than me. Did you see her lesson plans? And her kids write papers that are 10 pages long, and mine are learning how to write paragraphs and all of that. So those two big ones are just sin. And I have had to learn, I need to like lay them before the Lord. And the goal is not to have perfect kids. The goal isn't for me to be the perfect mom, or to have everybody look at me and think I'm doing it great. That the point is for them to love learning and for them to make progress. And so especially with mine, that they're just a little bit slower, and school's going to be hard. And so I really had to be like, I'm doing what I can. We're going to do a little bit every day. You know, sometimes we're not. You're going to have days you don't get anything done, and that's okay too. That like, give it to the Lord. He's there walking with you. That fear, that God can handle that fear. He's way bigger than all my fears. And then I think this self-pity struggle, that like, I never get a break, which I'm going to talk to you later, because I think you can get a break. We need to build in breaks. Your kids need breaks. You need breaks. I mean, think about if you're sending your kids to school, then they come home, teachers get a break. So you need a break. So I've had to, I've had to get creative. So I wake up a little early, or I build it in, or I've gotten babysitters. I'm a huge proponent of getting people to help you out. So whatever that looks like. And then the time management piece. I do feel like I just can't get dinner on the table anymore when I'm homeschooling. It's just impossible. So it is really hard to figure out, how am I supposed to run the rest of the home and keep it clean and make meals and all that other stuff. So, and again, I think this is where making lists help, and try to stay organized. And then, doing Instacart or figuring out other ways to sort of fill the gaps, because I can't spend days shopping anymore, so all that stuff. But those are my joys and my struggles. And my last one is, boom, today I choose joy. That's what I try to be, to like, let those struggles go, give them to the Lord, and focus on the joys that he's with us. So those are mine.
I love that, because it just reminds me that it's okay to feel weak. It's okay to be overwhelmed sometimes. It's okay to not know, is everything going as it's supposed to be? Are my kids where they need to be? And when we feel those things, we can just turn and know that our strength comes from the Lord. I might be overwhelmed, but he's not, and he's going to guide me and give me the power to do exactly what he has for me to do. And I'm not going to ruin my kids if I don't get it all right every day. So that's awesome. Thank you, Courtney. Okay, LaWanda.
So I would say, first of all, there are 0 perfect children. there are also 0 perfect adults. So everyone gets the same playing field. We all make mistakes. And I think that it's really easy to look at other people like from the outside and say, oh, they're so perfect, or they're so great, or they're so awesome. But everyone has their own struggle. For me, the backbone or joy of homeschooling is literally just the freedom that we get. Everything that they said, the freedom to make your own schedule, teach your own curriculum, go where you want, when you want. I will say we always travel off season, which is so much cheaper. It also means that we travel more. And also I can call it a learning experience. So I can say, hey, I taught my kids about history and geography by going to South Dakota and looking at Mount Rushmore. Like, I did that. And camping is, nature studies and all this stuff. So there is an easy way to combine the curriculum, which I find to be awesome and amazing. There is a freedom in homeschooling that is just joyful. And I really love spending time with my kids. Like, I just love them. I adore them. They're awesome little people. And I get to be the one who like knows all of their joys and their sorrows. And I get to be the one who talks them through like things that hurt their hearts or things that they're struggling with. I get to be the one who comforts them at all the times, or I always get to be that person for them. And that brings me joy to do that. But my children are by no means perfect. The same things that make me go or make other people go, oh, he's so sweet, he's so kind, he's so caring, which he is all of those things. It's also a crybaby. So, and I am not a crybaby mom. Like I'm just like, I have 0 compassion. Do you suck it up, buttercup? So, like, it's so annoying to have someone constantly whining. But everyone else sees this sweet, kind, caring, compassionate kid, and I'm just like, oh, there's that whining again. Okay. But the struggles for me are definitely keeping my house clean. Keeping my house clean is just a thing that I think I've given up on. My kids pretty much do all the chores, like regular chores that we have in the house anyway, because I hate chores. But they're mess makers. And we have the little one who's a super mess maker, but they're mess makers. Like, they go in the kitchen and they make themselves lunch, which is awesome, but not clean. So they're in there doing, it's a double-edged sword. If I go make breakfast, the kitchen is clean. If they go make breakfast, the kitchen is dirty, but I didn't have to make breakfast. So, it's like a catch-22. And we have so many books in our house. And I am a book addict. And unfortunately, I've raised book addicts. So the book population is not decreasing, it's increasing. We don't have enough space in our house for all these books. We're not getting rid of any of them. So it is a problem. It's a struggle. And I know it seems small, but you really don't understand what I'm saying. It's not okay. So there are definite things that we struggle with in our house, staying on task. When I had my daughter was going to I think that was the hardest part. When she was going to a co-op school for her science and engineering classes, it was really difficult for me to keep track of what they were doing. And I lost that control of your kids' curriculum piece. And that was really frustrating to me, which is also why she's back at home. She was still homeschooled, but they had a co-op that taught classes. But having the ability to change at any time is really great. And we are a military family, so that flexibility of moving, being able to just pick up and go and move at the Army's will, the homeschooling gives us that, but it also keeps my kids' curriculum seamless. So because I know what they're doing, I don't have to re-enroll them in the school, get try to work through the we don't have friends portions, or no one knows us, or that has never been an issue for us, even though yes, they do go to different co-ops, whenever we move, they always know that those are not central relationships, that the family relationship is the central relationship. And so it's more of a, oh, I have new friends, I get to meet new people experience, as opposed to I've lost all of this network of people who care about me and who are interested in my life. That network is in our house, and that network is extended family members, and then on, of course, the like bigger scale, then you have a network of friendships that are they're literally across continents. And so when we go back to Germany, we stop and visit people, and they're always happy to see them. We go to Florida and we visit people, and we go anywhere in the United States and we can visit the friends that they have made and the relationships that we have built. But that central piece is never missing. And so I think that that is just a real joy to me to know that my kids' happiness isn't determined on relationships outside of my house, but it's based on the relationships inside of our house. And I hope to be able to keep that true until they are adults and they leave the nest and they go off. I think that another struggle is just paying attention to the curriculum. So when I say that, I mean like being intentional and not just checking a box, but being intentional in knowing what it is that they're working on, because they do have control over their schedules and they have control over their curriculum. Sometimes I can check out and go, oh, you checked that box. Okay, you checked that box. And I'm like, okay, well, you did it. And then I go back and it's like, you don't even know what you're doing. Or you take a test, you miss like half the question. You don't even know what you're doing. Let's go back. But that's a part of it. So I think that may be a part of life, but that is a part of it. That is a struggle.
Thank you so much. There's something that I heard you say that I think each of you have kind of brought up some special, I feel like, homeschool words that all of us might not be familiar with. So this kind of has to go to looking at what kind of homeschooling support is there. So I've heard the term umbrella, I've heard co-op. What does that even mean? What's an umbrella and what is a co-op? And if you're not under or in either of those two, what other types of support do you have to be able to homeschool your kids?
So I can take some of the co-op stuff. I've never done the umbrella, so I'll let Bonnie handle that, and anybody else can do co-op. So co-op, really, to me, I think it's sort of any group of people that get together for a class kind of thing. So I've been a part of co-ops that just do field trips. I've been a part of and some of these are like word of mouth, like this friend told me about it, and so then I got in it. Like I said, I've been in a co-op that's sort of like an art class, or this one I was a part of once did like PE and art, and then some field trips. Classical Conversations, the one that I'm a part of, it's way more structured than that. It actually does like the subjects, it does math and history and science and art and all of that, and so it does like a reading and curriculum. And so, and it meets on Tuesdays, but most of them meet, I would say, once a week. They're a couple hours long. Some of them are just enrichment, like I said. Some of them are more of like your classes. And usually they're led by parents. They're taught that way. Sometimes they usually cost a little bit. They're usually not super expensive. So that's kind of co-op.
I would just add that most co-ops are led by parents, and they have you're volunteering your time to be a part of the co-op, to like help it run and to keep it to keep the kids busy and do that. So that your volunteering could look like you teaching a class or you watching the kids to make sure that they're on task or something like that, but you're not able to like drop them off and leave. So that's like a big part of co-op, is that it is cooperation between parents to build community.
And has anyone done like the hybrid kind where, there's some that they actually hire tutors to come and teach the kids different subjects where then you can technically drop your kids off? Does anyone have any experience?
So the STEM school in Cheverly, it's a homeschool co-op school for science, technology, engineering, and math, and it's a really great school. But it's for homeschool children. It takes place in a church, and they hire professionals, so people who are currently working as engineers, as mathematicians, in those specialized fields, and then they come in, or you can take your child there. You can stay if you want, but you can drop them off. And they have like a 4-hour block where they offer a class each hour. You don't have to sign up for all of them, but that is more expensive than normal co-ops. But it is also, you're paying for something specialized. So
yeah, I think those are called tutorials. There's one called Granite that I know of that meets twice a week. There's one in Laurel called Spectrum, I think, and then one called Heritage up in Ellicott City. But yeah, those usually meet a couple of days a week. Yeah, and they are drop off. So.
Okay, and just for all the parents, we have a resource page that has a lot of this information. So at least the different co-ops in at least Maryland, I think there might be one in Virginia, because I know at least some people from the church live in Virginia, Rwanda. But so that you can then go
we
and
still
look.
attend our co-ops in Maryland, though.
Oh,
We didn't
okay,
leave our co-ops.
Okay. But we'll have the names of the different co-ops that I know Courtney is and Lawanda, you just named a few of the different co-ops / tutorials. And I think some of them might be full for this next school year, but then you could on your own go look to see. Some of them, I don't know if they're meeting in person and if you would be comfortable with that, but I know some of them are committing to doing online for at least this fall season. But that you'd be able to do more research there, and we'll give you the resources to start that journey of looking into, is the co-op for me or is it not for me? But I would love to hear, I think, Bonnie, you've done Umbrella. Could you give us a little bit of information about that?
Yeah, just to kind of say one thing though, like I'm pretty sure that Classical Conversations is not considered a co-op because it is all across the United States. It is a curriculum where if I moved today to North Carolina, they are on the same curriculum. Or in Guam, we have people who are there that are doing the exact same thing that we're doing. So it is actually curriculum based, where there will be transcripts that I can formulate from what my children learn, and it's not like just your moms getting together and kind of figuring out how they're going to teach history. You know, it is a specific plan. And if you do Classical Conversations, I feel like, I know Courtney's had kids in and out, but it builds upon itself. And so when your children in 4th grade are learning some Latin, by the time they get to 9th grade, they're like totally figuring out an entire piece in Latin. So it builds upon itself when it comes to the curriculum. As far as an umbrella, that is usually a church, if you will. The one that I was under was formulated by a church. I gave them like $67 a month for them to give me direction and guidance, for them to meet with me twice a year, basically saying, what are you doing with your child in these areas, so that they could give that information to the county and I did not have to meet with the county. And then if my children would have stayed with that umbrella all the way till graduating from high school, they would form my transcript for me. So that's kind of what an umbrella does, is they do the transcripts for you, they give you guidance and direction, they give you feedback on where you are when you're teaching your children different subjects, and then they are your advocate, so that it can kind of be there's a continuous face that you see, as opposed to every 6 months you're meeting with somebody from the county and you don't know who it is and they don't know who you are, and you know, you're kind of having to bring stuff to somebody in hopes that they feel like you're doing a half decent job. You know, so an umbrella is just a little bit more personal, if you will. It kind of, in my words, takes out the county, and it takes away the county and kind of facilitates that for you. Lawanda, is that kind of the way you would describe an umbrella yourself?
I haven't been a part of an umbrella.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to, so an umbrella does it help you to keep on track more so with meeting legal requirements that you have for homeschooling?
Yeah.
People need it, some people don't.
Okay,
Yeah.
Put it that way.
okay,
When I was new to it, I really felt like they helped me a lot. Now that I'm in a very curriculum-based education mode, I don't need them.
okay,
I've got this, you know?
okay, okay. But then a co-op is more so where you're going to have someone, whether it's another parent or a tutor or somebody like that, come and help with teaching your children certain subjects, whether that's math, science, art, or something like that.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, yes and no. So it can be, but it could also just be field trips.
Okay.
Or wait, I've been a part of a co-op that we just did holidays.
Okay.
So we literally just met for Valentine's Day and had a Valentine's party. We had a Christmas party. We met on holidays. That's what we did.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. So with that, now that we've been talking a little bit about legal requirements, if someone wouldn't mind answering the question, what are the legal requirements when you want to go from public school to homeschool, or if you just decide, I don't ever want a public school, but send my children to public school or private school, what are the legal requirements for homeschooling families?
It depends on the county that you're in. This is an example of what I have to fill out for my children. And basically, you just say, these kids are going to be homeschooled, and you give it to the county. It's just like
You find it, you print it off on a website, you mail it in, right?
Yep. Yep. You do it every year. Annual notification.
And we, on our resources page, will have the links for the counties where our church is represented, so that you can just go to the resource page, click, and then print. So more for legal requirements, but one of the questions to kind of add in there, how much do they check on you, the county?
Yeah. Good question, Anna, good question. So you have to go, they will send you a reminder, you go twice a year. You go in the winter and then you go in the spring. And you have to show that you do regular and thorough instruction for 7 subjects. Is it 7 or 8?
It is
There you go. That's it.
English, math, science, social studies, art, music, health, PE, and then basically this guy just says you're compliant, doesn't write a darn thing down, and this is what it looks like per child.
Yeah. So literally you will go on the day that you sign up. Well, it'll probably be virtual this year, who knows, but they're going to have that paper that Bonnie showed you in front of you. And you can get as fancy or as not. I know moms that make really fancy portfolios and they have everything laminated and it's all pretty. I literally take like my math book with me, and when they get to math, I say, here's math, and he can open it up. And the important thing is you have to date everything. Yes. They want to see that it's dated. So they want to see that you didn't just do it all last night, but like every day you're doing a little bit. So then when it gets to English, I pull out my English. When it gets to science, and literally for health, I mean, my kids, I've homeschooled mostly pretty young kids. So health, we talk about how we brush our teeth. We talk about fire safety. We talk about cooking, and then they check it. Like, I'm like, that's it. I don't have like a huge health curriculum or anything, So PE, we talk about how we go hiking and bike riding and play soccer and, and we talk about, caring for your body and drinking water, that kind of stuff. Yeah, but that's what it's like. They fill out that paper twice a year. So anybody else want to add?
What about music? That's a big question I had.
They have it. You have to do it. Something. You have to show them either worksheets that show a whole note, a half note, or one person has actually watched a video of my son playing the piano, and that was plenty. Yeah, so they'll ask, now that my children are older, I take them with me, and I just make them answer themselves to the guy, and they say, I play violin, I have lessons once a week, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so if they take an
Music
instrument,
theory.
yeah,
So if your kids don't play an instrument, if
yeah.
music theory also counts as music, so learning about Beethoven or whoever, it doesn't matter. But as long as you're teaching them something about music, that also will work.
Okay. So my son is in well, kindergarten, first grade-ish, probably more first grade than kindergarten. But like, I guess I was planning to just do a lot of singing and call that music. But does that actually, would that count?
I think that if you could talk to them about measures and whole notes and just kind of put something concrete on it, then like fortissimo, pianissimo, like actually not just singing like let's crescendo, then when the time comes when that person's sitting there, you can go, remember when we talked about crescendo. But yeah, those PE, health, music, and art are the ones that they are just a little bit less, they don't have to have like worksheets in front of them for it.
And especially at your grade at kindergarten, they're not going to want to see, they don't need to see a robust grade. Like if you had a sixth grader, I might say, yes, just singing might not be a ton. But like, I think exactly what Bonnie said, for your age of kid, that's plenty. I think talking about that. If you're going to sing hymns, like Luana said, I think maybe looking into who was it that wrote the hymn, like doing some of the background, like talk about that. But yeah, I think
Okay.
So my next question is, as we're talking about building portfolios and things like that, evaluations. Are evaluations necessary? How do we know? Bridget asked, how do you assess the kids' grade level? Or do they get assessed? Do they have to take the public school? I'm not sure. It's like the MSAs and things like that, depending on the grade. Do you have to do that when you're in homeschool? And if you don't, how do you know what grade level your child is on?
So it depends on what state you live in, what the regulation is. But here in Maryland, or Virginia at least, I'm not required to do testing. However, my children are tested. We do not do school testing. I just order them the national standard test. I use the CAT, which is California Achievement Test. I order that. It's shipped to my house. My kids take the test. I send it back to them. They grade the test. They send me their scores, and they tell me pretty much the same thing they told me when I was in school and I was taking the test, that you are above grade level in this, you're on grade level here, you're above average, or you fall into this percentile of kids and what they know. And then I can look at that and go, okay, I see that you really you excel in reading, you excel in math, but you may not excel in spelling. I don't know. But so that's something we can work on the next time. You may be at grade level, but maybe I want you to be at exceeds expectations. I don't know. So that's how I would answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done that. Again, for us, it's not required either. I did like having that tangible information, but it basically told me things I already knew. Because you're going to know your child and what their strengths and weaknesses are. The thing that I liked about it is I actually had the opportunity of having my children take that test, like, what does this fill in the bubbly thing mean? Because that's very much what college is going to be like.
Yep.
Because homeschool isn't like that. Their math test, it's basic, it's the same. If you're in the same math curriculum, those tests are all going to look alike. So I can say that you're going to know where your child is on a grade level when it comes to reading, and then math, because they're just going to progress to that next book type of thing. But history and science are very fluid. You will relearn a lot of history and science. And so my fourth grader knows what my ninth grader knows, and so for me, I don't know if I have that answer. Do I know what grade level they have learned and haven't learned, because they haven't been in that public school system type of a level? Overall, I know that they're learning new things, they're expanding their knowledge in depth, And if I want them to be assessed, I can get them assessed and tested, but it's not required.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
that's very true. I will agree with Bonnie. You know where your children are. If you are giving them, even, it doesn't have to be a test at all. If you're working with them in reading and you pick up a 5th grade book and they can't read the book, you know they're not on grade level. Or they're having a hard time, they're stumbling over the words, they can't sound them out, like, then you know you have to go back and do reteaching. If they're in algebra and they can't answer any of the questions, then you know they don't understand algebra. It doesn't have to be a test or an assessment. You can clearly see, like, they're struggling with this. Let's go back to where you're not struggling and then build upon that.
Okay. And Bridget, if you have any other direction you wanted to take that question, go ahead and jump in. Okay, our next.
I actually don't have any direction. So now this is somebody speaking from a point of ignorance. One, I studied someplace else in Kenya and came here. So some of the things I see my son learning, or the things I hear kids learning in 5th grade, 8th grade, is so alien to me that I don't know how I can effectively homeschool when I don't have, so to speak, the American educational background. And then also, I didn't take multiple choice question tests, which is how schooling is mostly done here. So our testing right from nursery school to primary school was not multiple choice questions. So I struggle with that. I don't know how effective I could be, but I'm sure I can learn. So that's the struggle for me. How do I effectively homeschool when I have a completely different orientation or background? And for full disclosure, I'm supposed to be a teacher, so you can imagine.
It doesn't have to look like public school has to look. My children don't take multiple choice questions either.
Oh, great.
Yeah, my kids only do multiple choice tests whenever I order the CAT test.
Right.
That's the only time they do it, because I want them to be used to taking that type of test.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think every homeschooling family, you have to play to your strengths. So I feel like the history, the approach you want to take, you need to run with it that way. And then I think the more people you rub shoulders with or groups that you get in, you'll learn different, we're all learning. So you're going to learn an approach to history you never knew before, or English, or whatever. I think you start with what you know, you play to your strengths, and then you adapt and learn and grow as you go. So yeah, I think that's the beauty of it. So,
and I would say, Bridget, multiple choice testing is one of the dumbest ways to take a test. So it's a very ridiculous way of evaluating what people know. It's very ridiculous. So you just have to learn how to test, not how, like, the material for the test. If you know how to add and subtract, you can choose the right answer. If you know how to read, or you know what the science is, or you know the history, you can choose the right answer. Multiple choice tests are really dumb. That's okay. It's my personal opinion, but it's backed by evidence.
My opinion too. I don't think you expand your abilities with multiple choice kind of testing. You can't be a critical thinker that way. But anyway, that's for another day.
Thanks so much, Bridget. Okay, so some other of the questions that I have gotten, this one is specifically for Lawanda. How do you balance working and homeschooling, especially early elementary school?
So, though it depends on what I'm doing. So, I've run a tutoring business since I started homeschooling my children, and that was something that I could do after school because I was tutoring other people's children. They were in school, so I wasn't working throughout the day. Now I teach ESL classes to, I still have my tutoring business, but I teach ESL classes to Chinese students, and so they're on a completely different schedule than I am, which means I, who naturally wake up early in the morning, can get up, teach classes, and be done by the time that my kids wake up. So I don't ever have to leave my house and go do anything, but I can get up, get dressed, come down to my office, teach my classes, and then they're completed by the time that my kids wake up and they're ready for school. So I would just say you have to find what works for you. So whenever I tutor like American kids online, I do that during the times that I have free. So I set my schedule and I say, I want to work between 2 and 4 p.m. so that I can actually get up and go cook dinner, and remember to do that. So then I will book someone, if for 30-minute slot, it may be at 2, it may be at 2:30, but whatever it is, I know that the last slot I can book is 3:30 because I want to be done by 4 and I want to continue on with my day. So that's how I do it. I just decide what days I want to work, and what I want to do. If you have a job, because my jobs are all entrepreneurial, but if you have a job where you're reporting in, where you have like a scheduled time to check in or something like that, then you would want to schedule your homeschooling around your life. That's do what works for your family.
Yeah, I've heard of, and again, this is not from personal experience because I have not. I'm going to start the preschool homeschool journey, but just people that I was close with at another church, the wife who was homeschooling the kids, she worked part-time and then now she actually works full-time, but she still homeschools her children. They just will start things later in the afternoon, and that works for her family. Okay, another question that I received was, this Esther asked, what are your favorite ways of socializing your kids? Which groups or classes, and how do we work in socialization and diversity so that your kids are still able to meet different types of people? And it's a little bit hard now, again, because we're in the middle of a pandemic, but.
Right. So this is, I can speak to this being the extrovert. I mean, you guys might be too, but we, it's really important for us to still be in our community. So I think that that's why we also send our kids to public school when we do. We really feel strongly about being salt and light where we are. So I think it's really important for us to stay connected in our community. So all of our girls are in a Girl Scout troop. We do sports and lacrosse and soccer and basketball with just like the rec league in our community where we are, so we can get to know people that way. We've done art classes that are for homeschool specific. I think, like church youth group has been a great way for our kids to get, that piece and to get like that spiritual dimension. I think that's been really important. And I am really thankful that Silver Spring is just a really diverse place. So I feel like our co-op's diverse. I feel like the groups, when we're around, it's I guess, ethnically diverse. And then I think we try to make sure we're mixing in, we've got people who love the Lord, who know Jesus, people who don't, that we're sort of mixing it up that way too, I guess. So.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of extracurriculars. Like Courtney was saying, if you're getting your kids into sports or art, I think that that will bring other friends, and like she said, friends that aren't believers. And then even just with our classical conversations, there are lots of people. I mean, even though the majority of all of them, it's a Christ-centered curriculum, the majority of them would, believe that and say that Jesus died on the cross and rose again in 3 days. There are still people there who are very diverse, and it's been a great thing to be able to see how, if we're all working towards the same focus, how we all can, have a different spin on it, come from a different walk of life. So the curriculum you choose can be very socializing as well as the extracurriculars.
Yeah, I agree. My children do sports, which I think is one of my favorite because it keeps the conversations on that activity, which they have lots of experiences with all kinds of people when they're doing sports, which is great. In some ways, not so great in others, but mostly it's just great. But they also, so we're part of Silver Spring Homeschoolers, who is one of our co-ops, and it's a very diverse group. You have children from all ages, just infants all the way up to high schoolers, who are part of that. And so what's good about that is that they get to learn how to approach people of all ages. And then we also go so their PE is done in a rec center, which is, at the time that we're there, is filled with elderly people. So when we do, we do a lot of volunteering, like our kids do a lot of volunteering with the elderly that are there, which is also really good, like exposure for just different people, but different walks of life, hearing different stories, watching these, like, it's good for both groups, because the elderly people get all the life of the kids, but then the kids get all the wisdom of the elderly people. And so it's really beautiful. And I would say, like, the thing that I think people kind of miss when they say socialization is that anytime you're outside of your house, you're socializing. So learning how to go shopping at a grocery store and having your kid like pay for whatever they're getting, whether that's talking, that's speaking up, that's socializing. That's interacting with someone that is different from you, that is learning how to stand up for yourself, how to add and subtract and do all of those things while talking to someone else. Having them make their own doctor's appointments is another way of socializing your kids. Like, those socializing doesn't just happen in school. Socializing, it can just happen in school if your kids are in school 8 hours a day, but if they're not in school 8 hours a day, then they get to socialize with the whole world, and not just kids who are their age, who are exposed to the exact same things. They get to experience the wealth of the world. So I think it is very valuable to be a homeschooler who is going out into the world, meeting different groups of people, whether they are the kind of people you want your kids to look at or not. We went to the store the other day, and there was just this guy who had like purple and red and I mean, his hair was insane. And my son was like, "What's wrong with that guy?" I'm like, "I don't know. Maybe he's having a good day. He feels good about himself, so he put some colors on. Who cares? Like, let's mind our business." But it's good to know that you're going to see differences in the world. And I think that when you grow up in a bubble, that you really don't know who is different from you. But when you grow up exposed to all types of people, all ages people, all types of social order and all of that thing, then you can really see, like, you have a much better and clearer vision for what the world actually is, as opposed to this bubble, sterile version of what the world may look like when you leave, which it doesn't.
No, and I feel like a lot of people who have their kids in public school, the only time you have left with that child is that evening when you're making dinner, eating dinner, doing homework, getting ready for bed. And so the last place you're going to be is at the grocery store with your child, learning how to figure out, is this 20 ounces for this much money cheaper than this sale, which is, 5 of these that are 2 ounces. I mean, you have to have conversations about that. And then, like, with my youngest, I decided to pay cash. And so what's my change going to be? How much money am I going to get back? And I've had people say, "Why aren't your children in school?" And I was like, I homeschool them, and so even just that conversation, that my child is watching, that, this is okay. We're, they're learning these different things. So socialization doesn't always look the same.
But I guess bottom line, your children will not be what I think the homeschool child stereotype is, that they don't know how to talk to people.
No, my children know how to talk to people.
I'm going to tell you guys.
Oh my, they talk all the time to everyone.
I was homeschooled and I did not turn out super weird, so now out there.
He's homeschooled too.
I've known homeschoolers who are very they're kept in their house and they're kept away from people of any differences, period. And yes, those children are very weird. But I've actually known public schoolers who are kept in their house and they've been kept away from people. And those children are very weird because they're isolated. So the key is don't isolate your kid. Don't do that.
Good. All right, there's still so much to get to and so very little time. So we're gonna go ahead and jump to final pieces of advice from our panelists. I'll let you all know, we do plan to have another one of these in October once we've actually dipped our toes into homeschooling. Probably a lot more questions will come up and we wanna give you all space to just come back and say, okay, I've got questions about this. We'll also give you the contact info of the panelists. So if you want to follow with them after this or in a couple months or something, you're free to do that as well because they have graciously offered themselves over for that. But now I'll let us get into final pieces of advice from the panelists. And we'll start with Courtney.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to share my screen, y'all. I got another nerdy slide. Okay. So my tip. Oh, where did it go? Well, it's not there. Hold on. Let's try again. Share my screen. It was right here. Share. There it is. Okay. So my tips. I thought of 10. I'm not going to spend super long on any of them because I know we got to move. But my top 10 tips as I thought about this. My first one is homeschooling will be a big rock in your life. I don't know if you've been to any of the Thrives or parenting things or you've thought about this, but someone explained it to me once of like, you have a jar, that is your life. And that's as much as you can put in. You have a limited amount. You are limited. You are not perfect. Your family, all the complexities. And so you're going to fill it with big rocks. You're going to fill it with little rocks. You're going to have little things you need to do. And so your marriage obviously needs to be a big one. Your walk with the Lord needs to be a big one. But homeschooling is going to be a big rock. It's going to take some time, especially if you're new. So just remember that. I think I have homeschooled in years where I've thought, oh, I'm just going to like tag it on the end of whatever I'm doing. It'll be fine. And I am completely stressed out and it doesn't go well. So I think the years that I realized, no, this is going to be a thing that we're going to need to focus on. It just goes a lot better. So I put like have fun together and I think define the win. So I think on the onset, knowing what am I aiming for is really big, at least for me. So knowing like the ones of my kids that are like below grade level or that really struggle, what is the win for that year? So I can manage my expectations because your expectations are not going to look like what you think they are. And it is not your only rock. So please know that you have there are lots of pieces to you. So you might have a job and you might, your marriage is important and your community group and being a member of church is really important. And so this isn't your whole identity, but it is going to be a big piece. So that's my first thing. Second, and I think it really is important to know yourself and your kids. So do you have toddlers? Do you have babies? I've homeschooled with, all of it, with pregnant, nursing kids, babies, toddlers, and now, they're all older. So I think you need to know yourself really well. Are you introverts? Are you extroverts? And play to your strengths. So I think it's really important to sort of know that. Do you need co-ops? Do you not need co-ops? Do you need workbooks? Do you want to create your own stuff? So I think it's important to sort of know yourself and each of your kids as you figure that out and their learning styles. The next one is don't reinvent the wheel. So all three of us are available at any time. We would love to talk. We all have done a bunch of different curriculums. There is so much curriculum out there. So you're going to try some and you're going to like it, and you're going to try some and you're not going to like it. But there is so much out there. You don't feel like you have to do this all on your own. That kind of leads to my next one, which is you will spend money. I think I had to get over that. I am like super frugal and hate spending money on things that I'm not going to use. And I just kind of had to get over it. So you're going to buy a workbook or you're going to try a certain curriculum and you're just not going to like it. I would say don't kill yourself, like try something else. And I think that's where it's really great to share stuff. So if you're like, hey, I've been really wanting to try this math, could I try yours? Or share, like I get so much stuff from people who have kids that are older than me that aren't using it this year. So share stuff when you can. Just realize you're going to spend money. It's okay. You're learning. This is a learning process. I think that I've sort of touched on that. Have a mentor or a friend in your life that you can go to and ask questions, I think is really big. It's been huge for me. I have several mentors that I go to that really have helped me. This is my big one. Put your phone down. I feel like it is so easy in this world, in our day and age, to get so distracted. I feel like my kids are home with me all the time, and yet still it can be hard to be present and engage with them because I'm distracted or I want to do other things. So when you're in that school zone or when you are working with certain kids, just, I don't know, for me, I just tell myself that all the time. Put it away. There's a time for that later. This is the time to be with them. I think it does. I think it helps to make a reasonable schedule. So, and I put in there to revisit and revise it. And I think that's huge. I think as you start this year, you're going to want to have a schedule. What's it going to look like? What time are we going to start? When are we going to do what? When do we break? And so I think it's good to map it all out. But just know, like, come week 2, you're going to be like, oh, I get it. We're going to do science on this day, or we're not going to do it this way, or we're going to let dad help with this on Saturday or whatever. So don't like abandon ship and throw it all to the wind and change it every day. But just know you're going to revisit the plan every so often and sort of make changes. And I think it's really key to have the kids like be a part of that as they get older, for them to kind of know, hey, when do you like to do math? What is, and have them be a part of that. And like I said, be intentional, not additional. So really capitalize on lunchtime and read to them, or capitalize on car time and listen to books on audio or that kind of stuff. So really think about things you're already doing and how you can capitalize on some of that. Let's see. Think bigger than just academics. This is probably the thing I love most about homeschooling, that you really get to work on character development, life skills, family relationships, some of that kind of stuff. So as I think through the plan for the year, I think like my kids need to learn certain chores, right? So my 6-year-old needs to maybe learn how to run a load of laundry or empty the dishwasher, or my other kids need to learn how to do some cooking, or like money, like all that stuff at the grocery store, like how do you figure out change? There's just like so many things you can work on. And I think you need to build that in, like stop and think about that before the year starts. That can be part of your win. What are you hoping for? If your kids can fold laundry, that's huge. I mean, kids just there's not time for all of that. And so homeschooling really affords you that, which is awesome. And just relationships together, I think, is huge. My top 10, and then my number 9 is to build in me time, which I think is really huge to keep your soul to be refreshed. So I think me time looks like exercise, it looks like refreshment, it looks like time with friends or your marriage or alone time or whatever that looks like, how you recharge. Make sure you're building that in. And so make sure you talk about that with your spouse and how that's going to look so you don't burn out, because burnout is real. And then the last one, you're going to just need to walk close with Jesus. But you can't do this on your own, kind of like what I talked about. Colossians 2:6, I think I have it in there. It says, therefore, as you received Christ Jesus as Lord, so walk in him, rooted and built up in him and established in faith. So I think you just need to keep walking with the Lord every day. He's going to help you through it. So be rooted in him. So I think make time for your 3D group, your community group, church, whatever that looks like. Make sure you're staying close to the Lord. So those are mine.
Thank you. And not to add to your top 10, but now that you're talking, I thought of one thing that I would say, just a reminder that you're not signing on to homeschool forever. Like that's not what this is, that, okay, you're making the decision to homeschool. Now I have to do this. If you choose to do it until your children go to college, that's a great and beautiful thing. But if you choose when schools reopen to send them right back, that also too is a beautiful thing, as long as it is however the Holy Spirit is leading you. That is what we encourage you to do. So just wanted to add that in there real quick. And next we will go to LaWanda.
Okay, I don't have 10 tips. I will say for curriculum, don't buy the first thing that is super huge, a box set of curriculums. Do what Courtney said. Go find somebody you can borrow from, or buy something secondhand that may be an older model of that. But you really need to know your kids. So test their learning styles, and you can really pay attention to your kids' learning styles without workbooks. Are they able to hear you the first time and follow through? Or do they need you to show them something in order to focus? Like, those are cues to say, I'm a visual learner, or I am a auditory learner, or I am a kinesthetic learner. Like, you need to physically put something in my hand and tell me, go take this to the kitchen, or I'm gonna forget and start touching something else. Like, you pay attention to the things that how your kids play, how they listen to you. If you just pay attention to how they learn, then you can narrow down those curriculum choices and then try mini curriculums. The only way to try mini curriculums is if you don't spend $500, $700 buying one super huge curriculum, but you get it secondhand, or you borrow something and see if it fits your family. And then if it doesn't, chuck it, move on to the next one. Don't stress out. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. I would say, do what's best for your family is my utter number one. That is the hill I will die on. Just do what is best for your family, your schedule that is best for your family, the curriculum that is best for your family. Make decisions based off of what best meets your children's needs and what you are suited to. I know that I love the curriculum that we use, but if it is not for you, don't try to force it. And the last thing that I would say is simply the same thing that Courtney said. Take time for yourself and recharge your batteries. You need space to breathe. You are a human being and you need rest.
Love it. Thank you. Bonnie.
I think my final words would be, don't make it a struggle. If you are struggling, then there's probably a different way of going about it. There is not just one right way for everyone. Everybody's different. And it may look different year by year. And so you have to give yourself grace and give your children grace. Each child is different. So even with your family being a whole, your children actually also will learn differently, possibly too. My goal overall is that my children love the Lord and that my children love to learn. If I don't teach them how to learn a certain thing, they will learn it at some point if they just love learning. And our verse basically is John 14:27, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. And I've had my children, when we're screaming and it's not peaceful, try to focus on that is our goal, that we do strive for peace. And I actually have plenty of things. If somebody wants to say, I'd like to start a math curriculum, I'll lend you. So I think that the hand-me-downs is a wonderful way to start things, because I know that probably most all of us have a whole cabinet full of stuff where we can help people by sharing. So reach out to your fellow mamas because they are not only a physical support sometimes with curriculum, but also an emotional support when you aren't giving yourself grace. So
awesome. Thank you all so much. The last thing I just wanted to share was what, if you would like this resource page, that I will make it available to you. I hope you can see my screen. So at the top, you'll just see legal requirements. So if you live in another county that I don't have on here, let me know and I'll add the link, but just click on that link. It will take you to the page that basically says, hey, I'm taking my kid out of public school and I'm going to homeschool them, that one pager that Bonnie showed us. So that's what that is. It has the required subjects that you have to do something with in your homeschool with your child. There's some links on curriculum that our three panelists use. You'll see Bonnie and Courtney, they've talked about how they're part of Classical Conversations. Lawanda uses Charlotte Mason, and then some more specific types of curriculum that they use broken down by subject and grade, and then also which of the ladies use or have used those curriculums in the past that you can look at. Some other final resources are online resources you can use. I know I used Khan Academy when I was teaching high school science. free resource that I was able to use to just kind of bolster my teaching in the classroom. I actually used to work for Varsity Tutors. Yeah, just lots of different things that you can use, like videos and things like that, to add to your teaching for your kids. Testing resources. I think Bonnie and Lawanda, you both said that you do the California Achievement Test. Was that it?
That's
I did
what I've
some
done.
standardized something.
Okay. But just other, if you want specific evaluation tools for your child, here are a couple resources. I'm sure there's other ones out there. And then the last thing I have here are just a list of tutorials in the area that you can look into if you would like to. I think, I'm not sure who said it, but you might not want to, or sorry, tutorials/co-ops. If that's not your thing, then don't do it. But if you'd like to look into it, here are the links here. If you're interested, I'll add the information of each of our panelists on here as well. If you would like this resource page, I will happily share that with you. But just again, we'll have another session where you can ask any questions that come up as you start the homeschool journey. There's a lot that we weren't necessarily able to touch on just because it's hard to tell you all the things about homeschool in an hour and a half. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us. I hope that this was something that was super helpful for you as you kind of get thinking about what is it going to look like for you in the next few weeks. The verse that I want to leave us with is James 1:5. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So this might be overwhelming. It might seem overwhelming. How do I choose curriculum? What about this? What about this? What about this? But we can lean, and we ought to lean on God, who will guide us. So, and that is something that I 100% trust and lean on. God will guide you. He will guide you differently than he might guide somebody else on this call or another seasoned homeschool mom. But you can trust that God will guide you to do what he calls you to do for your family. And if you do what he's calling you to do, he will equip you to do it. And you can trust that. So the last other thing Lawanda threw in there, she has a podcast called Classical Conversations that has
Homeschool Conversations.
Homeschool, okay, called Homeschool Conversations. If you're interested, that you can tune in and get lots more wisdom about this homeschool journey. So that is it for tonight. Again, I'll get you the information. If you would like, you can just let me know in the chat now or send me an email at jennifer.bogner, BOEGNER, at thewellsilverspring.org, and I will get you our resource list and get you connected with our 3 panelists. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, you're awesome.
Bye.
Bye, Miss Eddie.
Thank you.
Bye.